What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and tonight I've got some football focus. I wanted to talk to you guys about the Steelers free agency coming up. You guys know, if you've been following my Steeler videos, that I've done a litany of videos by now. I did the how to improve our quarterback situation, I did the how to improve our offensive line situation, and I've talked about who we should cut and keep from our free agency class, because free agency officially goes live as I'm posting this Wednesday. It's Sunday when I'm posting this. So in 4 days, almost 3 days now, free agency will be starting, which means we're going to have to choose who to cut and keep on our roster and choose who to go after in free agency. Now, traditionally, Pittsburgh does not go big in free agency. They sign some kind of low-key veterans. But this year, Pittsburgh is in the top, I think, 15, the top half of the league, even possibly right in the top 10 as far as salary cap. So we have over $30 million, I believe, to spend this year. And that is before we factor in cutting Joe Hayden and possibly cutting Zach Banner, which would free up about $12 million more dollars. We can go from $30 million to about $42 or $43 million to spend this free agency. Now, we're not going to spend it all. We're not going to sign a ton of big name free agents, but I want to look at a few guys, a few big names we could sign along with some possible veterans to fill the many holes that we have on this team. We have a lot of talented players, and on paper we have a pretty good roster, but we have some pretty big spots to fill. And so I want to do a realistic look at what we could do to fill some of those holes, because in the draft we don't have too many picks this year. We have a first, a second, a third, I think maybe a comp fourth or a comp fifth, and then 2 sevenths. So we have 3 later round picks and 3 earlier round picks. That's not a whole lot to fill the amount of holes we have depending on health this year. If everyone comes back healthy and plays all season, we've got a very good roster. But if they get hurt again, we find ourselves like we did last year with a lot of talent on the outside looking in. So I'm looking first, obviously, at quarterback. So we have to get a starting quarterback for next season. And we know that Ben's gone, and that the guys on our roster right now, with Mason Rudolph and with Dwayne Haskins, are not the guys to do it. They are not the franchise quarterbacks. And this draft, in my opinion, is not the draft to do it in. I know they've looked at Malik Willis. I personally like the guy out of Ole Miss quite a bit, but he's had Matt Corral. He's had some injuries. Kenny Pickett obviously is a hometown guy, but he's going to go early. So I don't think, realistically, Pittsburgh should take a first-round chance on any of these guys when we have the offensive line problems and other spots that we have this year. So, okay, the guy's not currently on our roster, and the guy is not draftable, in my opinion, for the value this season. Next year's draft is where the quarterback draft comes in at. So what does Pittsburgh do to solve their problem? Well, I've got one guy in particular that I want, who in my opinion is the best fit for our system out of the entire offseason, and probably the best free agent quarterback in this class, Jameis Winston. Now, Jameis, obviously in Tampa, put up a lot of numbers. He's a stat filler. He threw for over 5,000 yards. He had 30 touchdowns, but also 30 interceptions. He went to the Saints last year, and I'll tell you what, he is maturing in my opinion. He was cutting back on bad decisions, cutting back on interceptions. He's going to be a turnover guy. He's going to take his shots. He's going to fill the stat sheet up all the way through. But he's got a strong arm. He's got a strong frame. He's hard to bring down, kind of like Ben Roethlisberger. And while he's not the fastest guy in the entire, NFL, he's pretty shifty and quick for a guy his size. So he's got some speed. He's got some strength. He cut back on his bad decisions last year, and he led the Saints to 5-2 before he got hurt. I know he's coming off an injury, and I know he's made some bad decisions in the past. But again, he's getting older, and I think that injury is healing up. And I think he played a lot better for the Saints and still showed us that strong arm that he's known for in taking shots downfield. Pittsburgh could be a big play offense and was not for the last year or two after Ben started to age, but still showed moments of guys that can run vertical. I can see Jameis Winston helping out with Najee Harris in the assisted run game, doing the run-pass option. I can see a lot of downfield shots to Deontay and Claypool. I can see a lot of guys really thriving in this offense. In my opinion, Jameis is the best value pick for this offense. We never were going to get Aaron Rodgers. We weren't going to get Russell Wilson. It was never going to happen. They have too much money on the books. They'd require too much draft capital we don't have. Same with Desean Watson. Everybody wants to see Desean Watson here in Pittsburgh. I don't see it. He's going to require a lot of money, a lot of draft picks, and probably a big contract on the books that we can't fulfill. And we're not going to mortgage our entire next 2 years for one guy that hasn't played in a whole year. So I don't see those guys coming here. I've heard a lot about Mitch Trubisky, I don't see it. He was a game manager at best in Chicago, and yeah, he won some games. He's not terrible, but his decision making, his arm strength didn't show me that much, and he was a game manager at best. I don't see him being a fit here. If we have to list two more quarterbacks that I'd go after Jameis, the pickings are slim. Andy Dalton is losing it. I don't see it. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't know. I have Marcus Mariota as my number 2, just because he was a decent starter in Tennessee and he didn't get to show much since then. He's really shifty. He's a fast quarterback that gets outside the pocket, which is nice. And he's a younger talent with not a bad arm. So he's a good number 2 in that same draft class with Jameis. If we have to go for a number 2, number 3 will be Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he's a guaranteed only 1-year guy. He's an aging veteran that he can be a bridge quarterback to get you 9 wins. He can get you into the playoffs as like a 6 seed, but he's not going to get you playoff wins and valuable division wins and stuff like that. So in my opinion, yeah, you got Mariota and Fitzpatrick are decent bridge quarterbacks, but if you want a guy that can last beyond 1 year and be a future starter that can show you his peak and show you what he can still do actively, the best value and the best name and the best fit, in my opinion, is Jameis Winston. He is a very top target for me this offseason. Looking at some lesser targets at wide receiver, we obviously have Deontay and Claypool who are coming back. Juju is a free agent, so is Washington, so is McLeod. I think we'll get McLeod back and we're going to lose Washington, so it's all down to Juju. If we have Juju, Claypool, and Johnson, I feel pretty good about that top 3. If we lose Juju, which we might, depending on his market value, I don't like Deontay as our 1 this season coming up with the drops. I don't like Claypool as our 2, with all the lackluster route running and all the behavioral issues that he's had. And I like McLeod, but he's not really a 3. So in my opinion, losing Juju bumps everyone up to a spot higher than they belong at, which means we need somebody, and I would go with a veteran presence. Somebody who's experienced in the league, who's got some veteran leadership. We need these guys to get Deontay out of his head and get Claypool, back on track mentally and get him running routes. So we've got some young guys with talent, but they have big question marks, and a veteran would help change that receiver room, which we need some leadership right now. So I'm looking A.J. Green, someone like that, who's got some more left in the tank. He's played pretty good for Arizona with Murray. I like him a lot. I think with Jameis, he would do really well. He's still a good-handed guy. He's reliable across the middle. He's a good deep ball guy for his age, and he's still got some speed. Emmanuel Sanders, another veteran, he's lost a few steps, but he's still a pretty solid slot receiver. He can still make some moves. He's quick with his feet still. He's got decent hands. Another guy, same team as Green, Christian Kirk. Kirk is not nearly as long-term veteran as those guys, but I think Kirk's underrated for Arizona. I've always liked his hands. I think he's a good option downfield. I think he's the most polished of the younger receivers in the class this year. So someone like an A.J. Green or a Sanders would be a good veteran fit. Someone like Kirk could come in and be a 1 to 2 for us coming in next season. So those are some guys I would look at as wide receivers. Offensive line, obviously we have big needs there. We're going to address, I think, some of that in the draft. I would rather address offensive line in this draft than I would quarterback or receiver. I would like to get 2 picks in the draft this year. If I was drafting for the Steelers this year, I would go center first and then tackle second. So I would address them back to back. But if they don't and they want to look for free agents, this is where I would spend the bigger amount of money. Tackle-wise, we got Morgan Moses and Nate Solder. Some veterans out there, some younger veterans. Solder, I think, is 33. Moses is in his 20s. But I would look at one of those guys. We need, again, veteran presence. I think we're going to lose Trey Turner, rightfully so. We're going to cut a few of our tackles. We need at least one veteran on this team. We have Dotson and Green and guys like that coming back next season. So we need a veteran there to help us. Center, obviously, Ryan Jensen is the biggest name. Center is one of our biggest needs. I've targeted Taylor Linderbaum from Iowa to be our top draft pick. If we don't get a center in the first round of the draft, we want somebody like a Ryan Jensen. And again, he's going to require a lot of money, but he's worth it. We have, again, $30 million, possibly adding up to $42, $43 million total for this offseason. Ryan Jensen is worth spending money on. Guards, Laken Tomlinson, Brandon Sheriff from Washington. I would look at those guys. Again, they're going to require some money, but they're established veterans who have been successful and been around for a while, and they can add depth, leadership, and just a solid guy to that position. I think we're set at guard if we want to move Kendrick Green over. If Green wants to go play tackle, we can go for a guard, but we need at least 2 guys between the draft and the free agency. We need 2 starters to plug in immediately next year, if not 3. I would get at least 2 between free agency and the draft. So I'd be looking at Ryan Jensen and either Sheriff or Tomlinson, maybe like a Morgan Moses. And again, if you're going to spend your money this offseason, you're going to get 1 or 2 high-priced veterans. The offensive line are one of the places I would go to. I would say 1 offensive line and 1 corner. We'll get to that in a second. Defensive tackles. D-tackle's a big spot for us. Tyson Alualu's coming off injury. We don't know what's going to happen next season with Stephon Tuitt. Obviously, Cam Hayward is coming to the end of his career, even though he's playing at a high level. So you're going to want at least 1 solid veteran there to back up in case Alualu goes down or Tuitt doesn't come back next season. We need another guy. Even though I like what I've seen from a couple of our backups last year, we need somebody more solid to shore up that run defense. I'd be looking at a Larry Ogunjobi or a Brandon Williams. Now, they come from the Bengals and Ravens respectively, so I don't know if they want to come play in our division with us. But I'd be looking at a D-tackle at some point. I've seen a lot of guys go in the draft. I'd be looking at one in free agency if we can, but that's a lower priority compared to some of the other ones. High priority for these next 2. If I was going to, again, bring in 3 free agents, one of which would be in these next 2 columns. Inside linebacker. We're going to be cutting Joe Schobert most likely. He's going to be saving us $5 to $8 million. Obviously, we have a lot of problems with Bush, and Spillane's been injured, and Spillane can't cover, and Bush can't cover, and these guys, Bush is not tackling well, so we need at least 1 big inside linebacker addition who can play for us next year, especially if we do cut Schobert and save money. So I'm looking at Bobby Wagner or Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks for Arizona, I've loved him for years. His recognition, his speed off the snap is great. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Hicks. Wagner obviously is the best inside linebacker in the class. He was just cut by Seattle. These 2 are going to require some money, but again, we have the money and we have the need, and these guys fit our system very well. One of these 2 guys would be great for us. Dante Hightower from the Patriots as well would be a lovely fit. So one of those guys. And then another guy that I would spend some money on this offseason and make a high priority, I would rather get one of these guys than go for a draft pick. I would go either cornerback, obviously. I would go Stephon Gilmore or J.C. Jackson. They've both been linked to us in Pittsburgh. They're going to be one of our highest paid guys, obviously. I would spend the money on one of these 2 guys. There's a couple other corners out there as well, but I think one of these 2, Gilmore or Jackson, we obviously have both Witherspoon and Joe Hayden as free agents this offseason. Hayden is the aging one who's been slowing down and been injured. Witherspoon played great toward the end of the year. I'd re-sign Witherspoon and let Hayden go. That's going to save us $5 million. I think it's 5. It might even be higher. But I would let Hayden go, which means we have Cam Sutton as our slot inside guy in his best spot. Akilla Witherspoon is a butt-in corner on the outside who played well last year. You want to add 1 more guy to the outside, so you've got your 3 starters in their best possible spots. I don't like losing Witherspoon, and I don't like letting Sutton play on the outside. He wasn't very good there last year. So I would let Hayden go. I would get some money off that, and I would take some of that money and put him toward Gilmore or Jackson, because if you have one of those guys as your number 1, and then Akilla on the outside as a number 2, that makes him much better. And then you put Sutton on the inside as your 3, that makes him much better. So those are the 3 guys I go for. So again, if I'm signing a few free agents, I'm going to put some money toward Jameis, and he won't be super expensive, but he'll be a quarterback that can play for us for several years. And I would put some big money into either Wagner or Hicks at the inside linebacker spot and Gilmore or Jackson at the corner. And if you got some money left over, throw them at either center or tackle. So those are big spots. If we fill out one offensive line spot, we can draft the other super early. If we fill out either inside linebacker or corner at free agency, we can draft one of those early in the draft this year. So that helps us to fuse some veterans with some young blood and spend our money in some good places. What do you guys think of these picks? Are they feasible? Are they possible? Who do I leave out of this list? Who do you want to see come in? Who could be a low-priced guy who could come up and steal the show for us next year as a starter? Tell me in the comments below, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Share this video and keep these going. If you guys like this video, go back and check out my quarterback video, my offensive line video, my Steeler free agent video, and please like this one, and I'll come back to you guys as soon as free agency kicks off with who Pittsburgh does pick up and let go as it happens next week. I'll see you guys in a few days for free agency. Go Steelers. Take care.